again, we have a case that a body wasn't discovered for many, many years.
She went missing on November 20th, 1987. She was independent. She was in the military. She had a very responsible job. Margie Pointer was 27 years old when she went missing. She was last seen eating breakfast with an unidentified man at the local Holiday Inn. She paid her bill, walked out the door, and was never seen again. At that time, she was married and had a small son who was only 5 years old.
And then her remains were found in 2004.
The murder has run out. So our job this week is to see if the evidence warrants a first-degree murder element of deliberate and find the person who killed Margie 27 years after her death.
It has been 16 years and still no answer.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
There are so many cold cases out there just waiting to be solved.
The crime scene ultimately tells the story of the murder.
We want to bring justice to these victims. Hello.
Hey!
Lieutenant Schoolcraft, I'm Kelly. Nice to meet you.
Miss Lee.
Yolanda, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
So we understand you got promoted.
Today was my first day of my promotion.
You've been in law enforcement how long?
24 years.
How'd you end up with this case?
The case always kind of haunted me. In 1991, I went through all the case files, so that's kind of where I put eyes on it, and then I went off about my duties because I was a patrolman, started out at the bottom here. And then in 2010, they tried to breathe some life back into it. Started going through all the original case files, talking to the detectives that worked it back then. Basically, started building the case from that point.
Nice.
During the process of working these cases, we're talking to family and friends, associates, and the more you dig into the case, the more vested you become in it. Basically, a fire that burns inside of all of us that work these cases. Hard to put that fire out.
And he sounds like he's kind of a nerd, too.
Might be a little bit, yes.
Do you have a place for us to set up and work in? Look who's here. It's me, Johnny.
Johnny Bond.
Yeah. I'm reading this case, and she was just a beautiful young woman. Had a young son and 2 living sisters that deserve to know what happened to her. If we can solve a case, that's what it's all about.
Y'all want to start with putting Margie up on the board?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice picture. Where'd you get that?
Air Force picture.
Margie was formerly in the Air Force, and that's where she met her husband. At the time of her disappearance, he was still enlisted and stationed in Japan. Why don't you start around the day of the murder, what was going on in Margie Pointer's life?
It was November the 20th of 1987. Her normal habits of the day were to drop her son, who was 5 years old at the time, at a babysitter. She dropped him off around 6 o'clock in the morning. At that point, she went to a local place where she's known to carpool from, which is the Holiday Inn. She was seen having coffee that morning with a male subject who was described as being approximately 10 to 15 years older than her. He was wearing a cowboy hat, cowboy boots. Then they got up and left. Sometime around 7 o'clock in the morning, that's the last time she was ever accounted for.
Margie called in sick to her job at RATSCAT, which is a military radar and testing area where she worked as a purchasing agent. But when she didn't pick up her son from the babysitter that day, her husband was notified.
The case was originally taken as a missing person case. Then the search began at that point to try to find out where she had gone to. 17 years later, in 2004, a forestry crew up on Sunspot Highway came across the partial skeletal remains of
Margie's inner circle was a man named Philip Crawford, who, unbeknownst to her husband, was actually living with Margie at the time. The reasons we are suspicious of him are...
Live-in boyfriend.
Margie said numerous times that she was going to get a divorce and wanted to marry him. Margie had openly been having an affair with Philip Crawford for several months. Now, Philip knew that Margie was married, but Margie's husband knew nothing about Philip.
The only reason I could see that he would have a motive would be jealousy.
If Philip was in love with Margie and Margie had either refused to leave her husband or taken up with someone else, it wouldn't be the first time that that would be our motivation for a murder. All right, what about unusual way he left town?
Sold his bike for basically half of the money for a ticket to go.
Skipped out quick. She's gone, and 3 days later, he leaves the country.
Philip was visiting from England when he met and fell in love with Margie. He moved in with her, even talked about marriage, but the minute she disappeared, he was on a plane back to England. That doesn't look very good for him.
Where is he living now? Do we
Last
know?
location we had was Liverpool, England. I have sent a fax request to Interpol to see if they can relocate him.
Okay. In addition to Philip, our other suspect is Pete Mullins. Margie and Pete, they were co-workers, they were friends, but when Pete was first ever interviewed, he acted like he didn't even know Margie.
The only thing we were co-workers at work, and we rode in carpools.
They were family friends. I mean, the wives and husbands knew each other.
Was he important to her at work?
He was a supervisor.
Okay, so the morning of, they both missed work.
Yeah.
One difficulty at putting Pete and Margie together that day is that they both had different plans. Margie planned on going to work that day, but Pete had said he planned on going hunting that day. In fact, Pete did show up at a co-worker's hunting cabin that evening. The problem is that cabin turned out to be less than 4 miles from where Margie's body was found 17 years later. Pete was close to Margie, and there were some strange coincidences surrounding her death, but right now, any motive he might have had is unclear. And in a case where you have to prove first-degree murder, motive is always going to be a very important factor. So in this pool of really good potential witnesses, how many of them are still around and still alive?
All of them are still.
Nice. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. A first-degree murder in New Mexico has to be committed in a willful and deliberate way. Since we don't have a crime scene or any DNA, we're going to need to find witnesses who can show that it was committed in a willful or deliberate way. That's the only way we're going to ever be able to get justice for Margie Pointer and her family. Today we're going to meet Margie's sister, Jeannie. I'm Kelly.
Kelly, I'm Jeannie.
Nice to meet you. Even though Jeannie didn't live in Alamogordo back then, she and Margie were very close. We just wanted to meet you and answer some of your questions and tell you not to worry and not to be nervous.
Okay.
Haven't met any of the family, so I'm just looking at her face, you know.
See the similarities?
Yeah. We've been working on the case a long time, and so it's been a long, many-year journey for me, so. And then seeing a face, you know, part of the family. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to finally meet you, and I'm so appreciative that you folks have stepped in to help us get this resolved, hopefully.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Margie?
The thing about my sister, Margie, she had the best sense of humor. I could always talk to her, and she would make me laugh or ease my worries, whatever it was that I was going through.
How about her relationship with her son?
Oh, gosh. I would call her nowadays one of the overprotective mothers.
So did y'all ever feel like Margie would have just up and left her son?
Of course not.
Okay.
When her remains were found, everybody kept saying, well, now you've got closure. Now you know that she's in peace, she's in heaven. No, we don't have closure.
That's a psychological bullshit word, but maybe you can get justice, and that's what we're going to try and do.
I wish my father were here to see everyone so hard at work on this.
Ready to get to work?
I am ready.
Let's go work.
Good morning. It's Roger. Thanks for taking my call. We wanted to ask you a few more questions if we could.
Another key family member in this case is Margie's husband.
I think it was June of '87. You got sent to Japan for 2 years. Is that correct?
Initially it was 2 years, but Margie couldn't go immediately because at that time there was a housing shortage.
Right. Now, I got to ask you some hard questions, and I know this is hard for you. The day she disappeared, you called her from Japan, and this guy, Philip Crawford, answered the phone. Do you remember that phone call?
I was shocked when he answered the phone, and he said, she's not there. As I recall, like, what the hell are you talking about? He said, she never came home from work. And that's when I really freaked out. And I said, well, I don't know who you are or why you're in my house. You need to get the hell out. I'm coming home to find out what's going on.
When you got back, did you talk to your son about what was going on?
We did. I mean, he was only 5 years old, but did the best we could.
It's obvious that it's right under the surface for him. Bringing up basically like scratching an old wound.
Did he tell you anything that we need to know?
He told me there was a hole in the wall.
How big was that hole?
It was about the size of a softball. He told me it was from his mother fighting with Philip.
We are in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Our victim is Margie Pointer. She was 27 years old. We don't know exactly how she was murdered, so we need to focus on what happened that morning back when Margie disappeared.
This is Margie Pointer and her husband, family's house right here.
Right.
Right after they purchased the houses when he ended up getting his orders to Japan.
You can't ever put your roots down anywhere, you know? I know that. I was a military brat. Moved a lot. Because the victim disappeared in 1987 and they didn't find her bones for 17 years, we really don't have a crime scene, so we want to retrace her steps from that morning.
So she leaves here between 5:45 and 6.
Drops off her son. From there, goes to the Holiday Inn where she would always leave her car to carpool.
Let's go over there and I'll show you where the car was found.
Margie was last seen at 9 a.m. at the local Holiday Inn, just a few miles from her house. She was seen there with an unknown older man dressed in cowboy attire. Fits the description of Pete Mullins.
Just to kind of explain how it was set up back then, the tan-colored car, that was right where her vehicle was parked. A lot of people would come in here early, jump into one vehicle, and head out to the base. It wasn't anything unusual where her vehicle was parked. If you look right back up here, just north of the Denny's restaurant is where Philip Crawford worked up there.
The fact that Philip Crawford worked at a car dealership less than 3 blocks from where Margie went missing also puts him in the middle of our world that particular day.
That was a little car dealership he worked at.
Place then.
Right.
Mattress place now, yeah.
27 years ago, around 7 a.m., Margie stepped out of this Holiday Inn and she disappeared. We're pretty sure that one of two people can tell us what happened. Either Pete Mullins, who she might have been with, or Philip Crawford, who was her boyfriend at the time. We want to talk to all of Margie's friends to see if any of them can tell us which one of those it might have been.
Have a seat right there if you would, Kathy. Yeah.
Did she ever confide in you about her personal life, about her feelings, about her marriage?
I remember Margie being discouraged that they had just got the house and now he had to take off. Margie developed a relationship with someone that we had met when we were out. That would be Philip.
She was afraid to be alone. Margie just wanted somebody out there so she wouldn't be alone because her husband was in Japan.
Trying to get a hold of June Hatcher.
This is Jen.
Do you remember Margie Pointer when you worked out at Ratscat?
Yes.
What did you know about her?
You know, she was pretty social.
Anybody in particular you remember?
There was one guy, he was a younger guy.
What was his name?
I do not remember that. I do know he was English, from England.
Oh, English guy, right, okay. Did you know Pete Mullins also?
I do.
What do you know about Pete Mullins?
I know they used to ride to work together, just the two of them. But I had heard that there was more to it than just the carpooling.
One of the co-workers assumed that there was some kind of an affair going on between Pete Mullins and Margie. You know, the old man's got him a young girl and they're having an affair. That could be a possible motive.
There was rumors.
Did you ever confront her about it?
No.
These rumors of an affair have always been around. We're going to really have to prove it if we want to show that's the motive. We need to expand our questioning to find co-workers of Margie and Pete to see if they have any information as to whether or not this affair was ever more than just a lot of rumors.
There was a lot of talk back then about Margie and Pete. What?
Oh, yeah, they had something going on. They were always together. They rode together, you know.
Now, you saw that? You saw that?
Oh, yeah.
How many times would you see Margie in his office?
I would say 3 times out of the week.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Did you ever see Margie Pointer in his office?
Yes.
How many times?
Every day at lunch.
For how long did that go on?
Oh, gosh, months.
Did you ever hear any loud discussions or arguments in that office?
Yes, I did.
Was it a one-sided argument, her yelling at him, or
No.
him yelling at her,
That
or
was,
back
both of
and
them were
forth?
going at it pretty good. I don't have no idea what they were arguing. I can't even remember the argument.
We have an argument between them at work to the degree that it's so loud, Poindexter heard about it. That's huge. I just wish that he also heard the words spoken in the argument, because then it would establish that it was a lover's quarrel, which would go a long way in establishing motive.
Mr. Bond?
Nice meeting you. I called and left one message. Let's call these bottom 2. I already left a message on that top one.
Several weeks ago, Lieutenant Schoolcraft had called Interpol and asked them to try to locate Philip Crawford in England.
Hey, Maria, it's Roger. Did I get anything back from Interpol yet?
No, sir, nothing.
After we'd been here a couple of days and they haven't replied, I thought we better start trying to find him some other way.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Johnny Bonds. I'm a retired homicide detective from Houston.
We've been tracking down some leads in Florida.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm sorry.
trying to locate other family members, and it's frustrating.
We're sorry. The number you dialed is not a working number.
Yes, ma'am. Do you know Philip Crawford? I think his dad was in... No, we didn't know his brother lived here. What's his brother's name? We tracked down Philip's brother, and he eventually leads us to a number for Philip over in England.
No one had talked to him about this case since 1990.
If he's our killer, everything's riding on how this phone call goes.
Mr. Crawford, this is Detective Lieutenant Schoolcraft from the Alamogordo, New Mexico Police Department.
After making calls all over the world, we tracked down our suspect, Philip Crawford, in England. His reaction to us could change the entire course of this investigation.
Mr. Crawford, this is Detective Lieutenant Schoolcraft from the Alamogordo, New Mexico Police Department. I wanted just to talk to you about when you first met Margie, leading up to when you finally ended up leaving back to England.
Philip agrees to speak with us.
So we ended up spending about an hour on the phone with him, trying to find out if he had anything to do with this murder.
You remember there's a hole in the wall in the bedroom. Y'all had a fight and there was a hole in the wall.
He admits he was in a relationship with Margie Pointer, that they met at a local nightclub in 1987. Soon afterwards, he moved in with her.
Immediately after this happened, everybody's all, yeah, that kid from England, she ran off with him, or he did something to her.
I said, you took off. And you go and you sell everything, and you try and raise money, and you buy a ticket, and you go back to England. That makes you look like a suspect.
If we ask you to take a polygraph test now, would you?
I asked him, I said, did you ever take a polygraph test on this? And he said, no. And I said, would you take one now? And he said, yeah, if you want me to.
All right. You got anything else, Roger?
No, sir, I'm good.
Good night, sir.
Bye-bye, Phil.
Let's talk about Philip Crawford.
Y'all found him?
Yes.
Oh, my God, where does he live?
England.
How the hell did you find him?
A lot of phone calls. He left because he was afraid of the husband.
Okay, so look up on the board on Philip Crawford. Y'all are clear on what their relationship was.
He wasn't hiding anything.
How much did Philip pick up on the relationship between Margie and Pete?
I think absolutely none.
You think we got a jealousy motive going on?
No.
Yeah. What about temper? He put the hole in the wall.
He put the hole in the wall, but he didn't even remember what he was about.
Unusual way to leave the country?
I understand why he left the country. He didn't want to be here when the husband got back.
Gotcha.
He was upset she was gone.
Gone, didn't know what to think.
He was losing his place to live, and one day his whole world gets turned upside down.
Okay, guys, what do you think about whether he still needs to be on our suspect board?
He doesn't need to be on the board anymore.
Okay, Johnny?
He's not a suspect.
Yo?
Cross him off.
All right, let's mark him off. Knock off a whole suspect, heck.
Every impression I got, he's not a killer. And I've talked to killers, and he doesn't strike me as being a killer.
He was in love with her. There's no doubt he was. He was very, very emotional when he told me. I was an irresponsible young man. She was just a sweetheart, and he didn't have anything to do with killing Margie. So that leaves us with one suspect, Peter Mullins.
Everyone, this is retired Detective Kerry Jarrett. This is Kelly Siegler.
Detective Kerry Jarrett was a police officer in the area where Margie's remains were found. So we want his insight on the location of her body to see whether or not that can connect to Pete.
Her remains were found here, which is exactly 3.7 miles to the cabin that our suspect showed up in.
Right.
Margie's body was found just off of a stretch of road known as Sunspot Highway. The thing about Pete's alibi is that he says he was never on Sunspot Highway.
In the statement in 2004 to law enforcement, he had traveled from Alamogordo, and he had taken this route all the way back through the mountains on his hunting trip that day.
He claims that on that day, he took his RV and went hunting in the mountains, but in a different area known as Sacramento Lake. But we also know that he showed up that evening around 5:30 p.m. at his friend's hunting cabin. If you take the Sunspot Highway from Sacramento Lake, it's only about 24 miles to the hunting cabin, and you would pass the location where Margie's remains were found. But Pete says he never took the Sunspot Highway. Instead, he claims that he drove over 65 miles on a gravel road in an RV in order to get to the cabin.
That's a lot of mileage right there through very windy roads where the speed limit is
15, 20 miles an hour.
It would be difficult to do that.
Especially with an RV?
Especially with an RV.
So we're on our way right now to the site where Margie's skeletal remains were found 17 years after she disappeared.
We need to examine the connection between the hunting cabin and where her remains were found. Because the only reason we see for Pete's alleged route is to keep his name away from the Sunspot Highway. Her body was found in a turnout at the bottom of a ravine.
This is a beautiful spot.
This is a great spot.
It was and still is an area used by hunters to dump animal carcasses.
So how far from right here to where the actual skull was found, the body?
About 50 feet. I suspect what he did is he just dumped her body right here. That's an elk carcass.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll find them quite a bit up here, part of the hip section
Right,
of the,
right.
of the elk
The first
there.
thing I'm seeing, like, my God, look at the bone.
Yeah. So you see a little clearing past these two first trees here. He probably just dumped her body off right here.
The first thing that I noticed was, wow, I thought our killer took some effort in hiding her out in some wooded, secluded area. It's an obvious pull-up spot for any car to pull over. Do you think he just threw her, or he didn't walk down there and place her?
No, he threw her.
He didn't have to carry her very far. He didn't have to put her anywhere. He didn't have to cover her. He didn't have to dig a hole. He didn't have to do anything but just take her lifeless body, walk over to the side of a cliff when below it is nothing but rocks and darkness and wild animals, and let her go.
Of the few bones that were recovered after 17 years in the elements, none of them could tell us how Margie was killed. So we need to find another way for this crime scene to connect us to our suspect.
Roger, point to where the cabin is from here.
Cabin's right there.
Just through the wood area right over there.
Let's go look at the cabin.
All right.
All right.
I'm going to time it, too, just so that we have a general time. I think once he dumped her body, he'd get the hell out of there. He's not going to sit around and mourn or think about it or anything else. He's going to be moving along in case somebody else pulls up.
That's right.
He's probably driving around at that time trying to figure out what he's going to do next after what has just happened.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, too. You guys, we're only talking like 8 minutes.
It's his house right here.
Okay, the white one?
Obviously, he had a bird's eye view of his RV.
I think he's just making an appearance.
I think so, too.
So could this be that he was just trying to alibi himself?
Exactly right. I was out hunting all day. I even joined up with the boys.
All those boys are still alive.
Yeah, that's a good thing, huh?
We have living witnesses who were at the hunting cabin that night, and they need to be questioned. What they saw or heard from Pete might be the key to solving a murder that's been cold for 27 years. When he was interviewed by law enforcement, Pete Mullins said that on the day of Margie's disappearance, he went on a hunting trip that had been planned. We want to find out if this hunting trip was really something Pete had planned in advance, or if he just coincidentally went on this hunting trip the very same day Margie disappeared.
When Margie disappeared, it was during hunting season. I had asked Pete before I left if he was going hunting. He told me he wasn't.
Was not.
He was not going hunting.
Okay.
Beautiful. Out of the mouth of Pete, I'm not going hunting. And how come all of a sudden he's popping up hunting the same day Margie disappeared?
Point blank, I said, Pete, I said, are you planning on going hunting this year again? And he said, well, you know, I don't think I'm going hunting this year. And he kind of disappointed me because he was my immediate supervisor.
How was he to work for?
You know, he was awful demanding, you know, just
Not
kind of.
satisfied with you?
Yeah, not satisfied.
You know exactly that kind of a boss.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's all disappointed because he ain't leaving.
You said at least 3 times that you specifically asked him.
I did.
And every time he said, no, I'm not going. Okay.
Nice. This is beautiful because that's Pete's alibi. If that's not true and Pete is making up the story, why is he lying?
Hello?
Mr. Bellows?
Yes, sir.
The most important witnesses in this case could be the men that were at the hunting cabin
Johnny Bonds.
because they would have seen Pete and talked to him that night when he showed up.
You remember who went up there with you?
So, Bill Bellows and Pat Bellows.
Okay.
And, of course, Pete Mullins came later.
Pete shows up. Were you surprised? Did you have any idea he was going to show up?
No, I did not.
Were y'all surprised to see him there?
I was, because I didn't know he was coming.
Was something said the day before about come on by or we're going to play poker?
I don't believe I asked him.
Okay. Was there anything unusual about him?
Yeah, I know he was scratched up. His face was scratched up, and he had something wrong with his thumb.
He had slipped on the ice, he said. Fell down into some bushes. He sprained his thumb, he said, and gotten a scratch on his cheek.
Well, it was long scratches.
Down the side of his face?
Yeah.
How many scratches did you see?
About the best I can remember, a couple.
Do you remember somebody taking his picture?
I did.
You took the picture?
Yes.
What happened when you took that picture?
He seemed to get upset.
What'd he say?
Why are you doing that? Or something like that.
Did you think it was kind of strange?
Yeah.
The one picture that Jim Hiller was able to take is one of Pete sitting there with his baseball cap on, with his face turned to the side. Unfortunately, it's turned to the wrong dang side. If it would have just been turned this way, we could have evidence in a picture of the scratches.
After that one time he showed up at your cabin, over the years that came by and passed, did he ever come up to your cabin again?
No, he never came back.
Okay.
You got to think about the coincidences, because coincidences are circumstantial evidence. If that was Pete at the Holiday Inn, maybe he convinced Margie to call in sick. Maybe they go off in his RV and fool around, and that afternoon, something went wrong. So we have to see whether or not all of that might have gone down in a way that will justify a first-degree murder charge, including deliberate. What we have to try and focus on is things that go to show he was intent and deliberate and wanted to make sure she was dead. Deliberate means showing the suspect thought about and considered for and against the actions that caused her death, even if that decision was made in a short period of time. We got a jammed thumb, we got scratches on the face. If he goes to strangle her in his RV, he's not doing it for anything but one reason.
It takes about a minute and a half to choke somebody.
That long?
Yes. The manual strangulation isn't that quick. I got something I want to show you.
Okay.
Just from his injuries, this is consistent with a frontal manual strangulation. They're fighting. The first thing she does, and
She's trying to make him let go.
You can hurt somebody like that, and even a woman can hurt.
And then, scratch.
It doesn't take but 15 seconds to 20 seconds for her to black out. It's going to take another minute at least to kill her.
So a minute and a half of consistent pressure, never letting go, never changing your mind, never taking it back. How is that not deliberate?
All right. Sounds good.
We feel that we have now established the deliberate element of this crime with witnesses to back it up. But the word about this investigation is spreading fast through this town.
Looks like they're home.
We're going to go to Pete's right now because we need to hear his version of how it all went down.
Hi, how are you?
Just fine.
Are you Miss Mullins?
Yes.
I'm Roger Schoolcraft from the PD, and this is Johnny Barnes. He's another...
Hi, Miss Mullins.
I know what you want to talk to me about. And I don't have anything to tell you. I know nothing. I am highly offended that you think my husband has done something. That's not who we are. I'm not interested in going over this with you.
We're at the home of our suspect, Pete Mullins, hoping to talk to him, but right now his wife is standing in the way.
All I'm trying to do is figure out what happened.
I don't have a clue what happened.
Is Mr. Mullins in? Can we talk?
Yes, Mr. Mullins is in, and no, he won't talk to you either.
He won't come to the door and talk to us.
No, he won't talk.
Y'all don't want to help us find out what happened to Margie? You don't care?
I do care, and I want you to find the truth. But you're not. You're on a witch hunt for my husband.
If we talk with it...
Not going to happen.
Ma'am?
That's it.
We're not going to be talking to Pete anytime soon, so that means we're going to have to finish our case with the few witnesses that we have left. We're so close, but it would be great to strengthen our motive and to put Pete at the scene.
Mr. Bates.
Yes.
Hey, it's Detective Lieutenant Schoolcraft down in Alamogordo. How are you?
I'm good.
Donnie Bates is a relative of Margie's husband. Right when Margie's husband realized that she was missing, he asked Donnie to take care of their son before he could get home. In all these years, no one thought to talk to him, and Roger had the great idea to call Donnie just in case he might know something about what happened that very first night.
Let's go back to around November the 20th, 1987. I guess you arrived in town soon after that date, correct?
Yes, but there were several people there when we arrived, and I believe it was Pete and his wife, I'm pretty sure. And I was down there and I was looking at Pete. I was probably about 5 feet from him. He had what appeared to me to be claw marks on his cheek. And he goes, oh, I fell the other day when I was hunting. I was off Thursday, and I was hunting at Sunspot, and he said I fell and got scuffed up.
Wait a minute, let's go back just for a second. Where do you say he was hunting at?
He said he was hunting at Sunspot.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm
The place that he's been avoiding?
In all the interviews that have been done, Pete Mullins never put himself on that Sunspot Highway. That's where Margie Pointer's remains were found. He told Donnie Bates that he was hunting at Sunspot, and the only way to hunt there is to be on the Sunspot Highway. It's like, you gotta be kidding me.
Are you familiar with the area up here?
No, I'm not.
Nice.
No, I'm not. That's the first time I've ever been out there.
Oh, okay. That's good information right there.
Pete made up that crazy route. He did all that he could to put himself as far away from Sunspot as he could, and he slipped up 27 years ago to one of the first people that showed up to take care of the little boy.
Hello?
Mr. Bradley.
Yes, sir.
After we interviewed Robert Poindexter,
both of them were going at it pretty good. I don't have no idea what they were arguing.
he helped us identify another witness named Krell Bradley. Krell also worked at the office, but he's been out of the country since before 2000, so he's never been interviewed.
Do you remember a guy by the name of Robert Poindexter?
Yes, I know him.
You and him were together when y'all heard a very loud, heated argument between our victim and our suspect. Do you remember anything about that?
He might have been having an affair with this person. She was really upset that he was ending their relationship. She was confronting him right there at work.
Okay, Krell, is there any way you could come down to the police department so I can get this on tape?
About 9:30.
9:30? Thank you, sir.
You're quite welcome.
Oh, my God.
There's your motive right there.
Let me ask you this. Where exactly were you in the building when y'all heard this argument?
I was actually going into his office, and I, knock, knock. Well, as soon as I opened the door, I could hear this argument, and I started to back out. She doesn't even wait for me to get out of the room. I don't know if she threw something, but it sounded almost like she threw something. And then I heard him say, I have to do this. I'm married.
You heard those words. I have to do this. I'm married.
Nice.
And I did hear him say, I'm married, and I can't continue doing what we're doing.
Okay.
And she was saying, well, how can you do this?
Your impression was he was breaking off a romantic relationship.
That was my impression.
Was she crying to that point?
No,
that
she was not crying. She was just strictly angry.
Nice, nice, nice. We don't just have insinuations. We have a witness who heard him say he was ending it, Margie was mad, and it was a month or two before she goes missing. Yeah. Lieutenant Schoolcraft.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at that board, what are your thoughts on whether or not we have enough evidence-wise for you to want to present your case to your district attorney?
Without a doubt. I mean, it's only gotten better.
Our board looks fantastic with all of the little factors listed out that incriminate Pete. What we've been able to find this week are witnesses with specific examples of the closed-door meetings.
Did you ever see Margie Pointer in his office?
Yes.
How many times?
Every day at lunch.
The argument.
And then I heard him say, I have to do this. I'm married.
You heard those words.
Yeah.
I have to do this. I'm married.
Nice. We've been able to find all those things this week that conclusively establish Margie and Pete were having an affair. And then there's the hunting buddies. That specific night, Pete showed up unexpectedly at the cabin.
Did you have any idea he was going to show up?
No, I did not.
Were y'all surprised to see him there?
I was, because I didn't know it was coming.
Pete was upset that they were taking pictures of him. And Pete even commented, why are you doing that? They also noticed that Pete had some scratches on his face, and he had a very sore thumb.
His thumb was all messed up.
I know his face was scratched up and he had something wrong with his thumb.
The evidence shows that Pete's injuries could be defensive wounds. Scratch. Consistent with a scenario in which Pete strangled Margie for several minutes. which would prove a deliberate intent to kill, justifying a first-degree murder charge.
I don't know how you could have this many points against one person and not feel strongly about it. I mean, come on.
This is a good case. It's the kind of case that we are excited to talk to a DA about. Are you ready now to go take it to your DA?
Absolutely.
You think
I
it's
am.
time to go?
Yeah.
You think it's time to go?
Absolutely.
Let's go. Roger is excited to present it to the DA, and she can't come talk to us, so we're going to drive our board straight into her office, let Roger stand up there and go over every single circumstance and coincidence and fact and piece of evidence and see what she has to say about the case. Our case against Pete Mullins for the murder of Margie Pointer has been presented to the DA. And Roger and I have just heard back from the DA with her decision. Now it's time to tell the team. She called.
And it doesn't look good.
Here's the good news. Your case is strong. Your case is great. It might be circumstantial. There's nothing wrong with it. It's ready to go right now. But she doesn't want to do it yet.
Oh, man.
The DA has decided not to try and indict Pete for this charge at this time. She doesn't feel that there's enough evidence yet to support a first-degree murder charge. Well, she's not saying you're not ever going to get there. She's just saying, let's keep working. I feel frustration because if you're a cop who believes in a case to the degree that Roger believes in this case, and you know in your heart that you think it's good enough, it's pretty frustrating, it's pretty disappointing, it's pretty depressing.
It hurts my heart. Are these cases easy? No. If they were cases were easy, everybody would work them. We're almost at the finish line. We're right there. It's like somebody coming out and stopping and saying you can't go any further. This is where it stops. Well, it doesn't stop here. I'm not done. Any cold case investigator out in this country is going to turn every rock over until you find the right person to help make this case solid and strong.
Hi, this is Mike.
Hi, could I speak to Nancy Grace?
One moment.
As our show has gained in popularity, we've gotten a lot of fans, and Nancy Grace is one of them. Hi, is this Nancy?
Yeah.
We need your help, girl. She's a fellow former prosecutor, and getting all this on her show might result in some witness coming forward with that little bit of information that will motivate the DA to move forward.
I'm happy to do whatever we need to do to put it on the air.
The hope is that there might be another witness out there that knows about the relationship between Pete and Margie. Who knows what it might be, but we just want you to try and get the word out, because you know how those prosecutors are. They always want a little bit more evidence, right? You remember those days.
Anything we can do, we're happy to do it.
Thanks so much, Nancy.
Actually, thank you for letting me be part of trying to solve this case.
Thank you so much.
Let's get it going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So let's go tell Jeannie.
I wanted to bring a little bit of her joy back. I want to be the guy that called and said this time was worthwhile. And right now I can't tell him that.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Well, we've done a lot of work.
Okay.
Basically, we're not quite there yet.
We found new witnesses. We found new information. It is all of our opinion that the case is strong. Roger presented the case to the DA, who has the ultimate decision. She still wants to work with Roger a little bit more. She's hoping to find a little bit more evidence.
We'll have to try to find some more stones out there that I haven't turned over yet. I'm going to find those stones and I'm going to turn them over.
It's going to be okay. Okay. And he is never going to give up.
We owe that. We owe that to your sister, the family. You have my word on it.
I trust you.
Okay.
Just be patient a little bit longer. Okay.
Our day's coming.
What we think is that when this culmination of the evidence, of the witnesses, of all of it is played out in a story for the whole country to see, Go have your day. Thank you. Thank you. You're gonna have your day. And he's gonna have his day. Are you okay?
I'm okay.
So you be strong just a little bit longer.
I'll be okay.
Be okay.
Margie, we're gonna get this resolved. Your son deserves this. Your husband deserves this. We're gonna get this resolved. That's all I want to say to you. We're not gonna give up.
Is it going to discourage me? It may discourage me today, but it will happen. That will be a good day for them. It'll be a good day for law enforcement. It'll be a good day for everybody.
I love Ohio. Kind of different for me to see all this greenery since, we don't have that in the desert.
We're in Guernsey County. Our victim was 17-year-old Robin Stone and her unborn baby.
Yes.
Robin Stone was 7 months pregnant when she went missing on August the 27th, 1991. It was her first day of senior year of high school. She came home from school, got an urgent call, walked out of her house for the last time, and she was never heard from again. And think about it, this was a little bitty school where they all knew each other, and Robin didn't show up for school on the second day. 4 months later, on December the 28th of 91, right after Christmas, 3 men were hunting out by Luberg Lake, and they happened upon some skeletal remains and called the sheriff's department.
A female body has been discovered. That body we believe to be the Robin Stone who was missing several months ago.
The deputy who responded knew about Robin's missing person case, so he was actively looking for little baby bones. And he found those right there.
It never really has been established who the father of the baby was.
Yeah. The police thought that determining the father of Robin's child was key to the case, but Robin Stone was pretty honest about the fact that she had lots of boyfriends. She kept a journal documenting what she did with those boys. Without proof of who the father was, the DA felt that they did not have enough to prove this case. So the case just rocked along for 23 years with nothing happening.
Well, I think we got our work cut out for us on this one. A lot of people to talk to.
So this week we are going to try and determine with DNA evidence who the father of Robin's baby really was. And hopefully finally find out after 23 years who killed Robin Stone and her unborn baby.
It has been 16 years and still no answer.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
There are so many cold cases out there just waiting to be solved.
The crime scene ultimately tells the story of the murder.
We want to bring justice to these victims.
Hi there. How
Hi.
are you? Sam Williams.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Jason Mackey.
Nice to meet you.
Are you from here?
Yes, born and raised here.
How about you?
I spent 15 years working in the next county south of here.
He drafted you to help out with everything?
He's the little worker bee.
Does that mean he gets to push you around all week?
We'll see.
As a father, I can't imagine one of my children disappearing and later finding out that something horrific happened. But in addition to that, my grandchild was never able to be brought into this world that I would never get to meet because of these events. Very tragic. First and foremost, we always want to give answers to the family. One of the goals of this case, not only to eventually be able to make an arrest and have someone convicted, but to give closure to the family and answers to them, answers that they've been waiting 23 years for.
Hey, good morning, boys.
Hey. Good morning. Look who we brought.
Jason Mackey.
Steve Spingola. Nice to meet you, Jason.
Sam?
Yes.
Johnny Bond.
Nice to meet you.
We brought Steve Spingola and Johnny Bonds, the North and the South, because there are a couple of witnesses in this case that are going to be a little difficult to deal with, and they had that experience. So this is her.
Yes.
You want to start with telling us about the case?
Robin Stone, she was 17 years old at the time. She was 7 months pregnant. She was going into her senior year of high school. She'd actually went to school the first day. Second day, she didn't show up.
Robin had received a phone call, left the house in a hurry in her car to go meet somebody. Robin had told her mother that she was going to do math homework with a friend. She told her mom she'd be back in about an hour for dinner. She never showed up. Robin's mother then called in the next morning and made an official report that her daughter hadn't returned home. For the next several days, deputies had kind of scoured the area to see if they could locate her. This went on for several weeks. Then on December 28th of 91, there were 3 hunters in the area and came across what they believed to be human skeletal remains.
Louberg's Lake off of County Road 15, where a female body has been discovered. That body at this point we believe to be the body of Robin Stone.
There were some identifying features, jewelry and things like that, that caused the deputies to believe that that was Robin.
How was she identified?
She was identified through dental records. The first suspect that really came to light was Lee Savage. Lee had been the longest relationship that she had had. She really cared for Lee, and she wanted him to be a part of this baby's life.
Police initially suspected Lee Savage because Robin claimed that he was the father of her unborn child. That was a claim that Lee Savage always denied. And then the case kind of got more complicated when that diary was found.
Yes, the diary led to several different relationships that she had had. Robin was very good at writing almost a daily journal on her activities.
A very honest daily journal.
A very honest daily journal, yes.
I think that diary paints the whole picture of Robin's life at that time. It's like a freeze-frame snapshot of her mind and her heart. It shows how she first met Lee Savage in January, the first time they had sex, and every time he broke up with her, and how she begged him to take her back. It listed all the other boys she was involved with, but the only one she wanted was Lee.
Comfort zone where that victim is found. He's been there before. They've had sex.
Louberg Lake is comfort zone. Robin's body was found in an area known as Louberg Lake. That's a property that's right up next to the Savage property. Lee Savage used to hang out there. We know that he took Robin there at least one time that we know of. It's also an area that we know that the Savage family frequented.
The family is very tight-knit. If there was a battle with one, then you battled them all.
The Savage family is very much in the middle of where Robin's car was found, where Robin's remains were found, where the baby was found. All those places are very directly connected and close to the Savage family. There's a Savage Road, for God's sake. Okay, so next up there.
There were a lot of threats that came from Lee's father, Jack.
So this is his daddy?
Yes.
Jack Savage. Okay, what do we want to put first under Jack Savage? Did not want the baby?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Jack didn't like Robin. Jack felt that they were a little more middle to upper class, and Robin came from a lower income family.
He was not happy that Robin might be calling his son Lee that baby's daddy because he did not approve of their relationship or of her. Does Dad have a short fuse?
When Lee would lose a fight at school and he'd get beat up, he would come home and Jack would beat on Lee for losing the fight.
Kicked his ass. Yeah, this is a very loving family.
Very violent, irritable man.
When you read this case, Lee Savage is all over it as the person with the most motive who's having issues with Robin and their relationship. But you can't disregard Jack Savage, who was so angry about Lee and Robin's relationship. You have to figure out, was Jack Savage so angry he would help his son commit murder, or he would do the murder himself to take care of the situation? So in addition to getting DNA evidence, this week is all about getting inside the world of the Savage family to try and find out what really happened to Robin Stone and her baby.
If it's this family involved, A, to take a 17-year-old girl's life, but then to literally just put her body where you're driving by for 4 months every day knowing she's right there, that's sick. We're going to meet Robin's family, her mom, her younger sister, and her stepfather.
Thank y'all for coming out here and meeting with us.
We've asked Kelly and Yolanda to come in and help us on this case. It's something that we've never forgot about, and hopefully we can get somewhere a lot further than we are right now.
Jamie is an adult now. At the time Robin disappeared, she was only 10 years old. So obviously Jamie's had a lot of questions throughout the years and missed a lot of the sisterhood, I guess, if you will. Judy never got to see a grandchild grow up.
Tell us some stories about Robin.
Robbie was a good kid. She loved going to school.
Yeah.
She worked.
She's real smart, real smart.
Yes.
Did she have any plans for what she wanted to do with her life after high school?
Yes, she wanted to be a veterinarian. She loved all kinds of animals.
What do you remember of your sister?
She would take me to the swimming pool.
It's okay.
Okay, Jamie.
You know, if you didn't cry, it wouldn't be normal. It's okay. On the night that Robin went missing, she got a phone call that sounded urgent, said goodbye to her mom, and walked out.
I don't know who it was. All she said was, I'll be there, I'll be there. I still kick myself as I asked her who it was on the phone that night.
What was going on in her life that she didn't want you to know about?
Probably Lee.
Did Lee Savage ever call your house or come by to see if you knew anything about Robin? Never, not one time.
He didn't even go to the funeral.
And it's just a nightmare for a mother to go through this.
Yolanda and I are both moms, and I think that as hard as it is, you can bury your spouse, you can bury your parents, but I don't know how you bury your baby. And you buried your baby and your grandbaby.
Never did get to meet my grandbaby, if it was a boy or a girl. I mean, they had ultrasounds, but the doctor couldn't make out if
You
it
don't
was...
know?
No.
Maybe we can find that out for you, too.
Oh, okay, that would be great, if it was a boy or a girl.
I remember one of the fond memories I have is everybody wants to know what the sex of that child's going to be, and they were not able to have that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for coming.
So we're hoping that that is one of the things that we're going to be able to do at the end of the week, is we're going to be able to give those answers to the Stone family.
In 1991, Robin Stone was 7 months pregnant when she was killed along with her unborn child. Her killer was never found. Our main suspects, Lee Savage and his father Jack, both live less than a mile from the area where Robin's body was found. It's also an area the Savage family was known to frequent. And now it's time for us to head out there ourselves to see the place where Robin's body was found.
Absolutely no fishing. Morning.
Morning. How are you there, Sheriff? Doing fine.
Hello. Morning.
Thank y'all very much for coming.
Charles Pickenpaugh and his son Charles Jr. originally discovered Robin's body back in 1991. December 28th, 1991. So tell us about that day.
We'd been rattler hunting, and the boy, he thought he'd seen remains of a deer up there, and he went up to look, and he hollered at us to come over, and he said, I don't think it's a deer. He said, there's a shirt and clothes laying here.
You mind walking down there and showing us?
No problem.
Sir, you're not dressed for this. I think you probably ought to stay at the car.
Did y'all smell anything?
Yeah. Yeah, it was right in this general facility on this flat area here.
The first body part we come upon is a bone.
What a great place to hide a body. No one walks that property. No one's going to see her. You can't even see her through the branches. You had to crawl in there.
The animals had kind of scattered it out over a pretty big area through.
We were processing the area. I had ascertained the information that she was pregnant at the time, so I looked for very, very small bone.
Good thing you looked, 'cause if you wouldn't have been looking, you wouldn't have noticed.
If I hadn't had knowledge that she was pregnant at the time, I may not have.
If it was Jack who killed Robin, he could have easily driven back here and dumped her body in this group of trees. But if it was Lee, since he and Robin have been out here before, he could have just met her here, killed her, and left her body.
So we're standing right here. Sheriff, point to the direction of the Savage's house.
It'd be about that way, about a half a mile.
It's crazy to see just how close the Savages lived to where Robin was found. Either one of them could have killed her and gotten back home completely unnoticed. The only issue would have been dealing with Robin's car, which she drove away from her home the night she went missing. And it was found just hours later on a property not far from Luberg Lake.
How's it going, Jamie? We just kind of wanted to see the layout of how you found the car.
Jamie Hayhurst found Robin's car within probably an hour to an hour and a half after she had gone missing.
That car was far enough past that I could see the back of it. Just the hood was past the end of the trailer.
Okay.
At that time, he had an abandoned trailer, and he would drive by, check on it, because people had been burglarizing and stealing some of the plumbing and other parts.
I pulled off the top of the hill, came running down, thinking I'm going to catch somebody. The motor was still warm. I don't think it'd been there an hour.
On August 27th of 1991, he drove by, saw a suspicious car there, was going to disable it and call the sheriff's department because he felt there were prowlers on his property.
There was somebody that was familiar enough to know they could hide it here.
He notified the sheriff's department about the car, which ultimately turned out to be Robin Stone's car.
Is there anybody that you can think of that would have known that, hey, there's not much activity around there?
Yeah. Savage is all I've ever heard.
Okay.
He knows the area. He can get to his house and never touch a road. Nobody even see you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. Definitely puts a
new spin on it.
Yeah.
It's clearly somebody who knows the area.
They wanted to separate it from the Savage Road and her body.
That's the key right there.
Yep.
Come on in and have a seat.
Marigold Marsh is the mother of one of Robin's friends. She spoke to Jack Savage the night that Robin went missing.
That night, when the mom called me at 8:30, she said, "Is Robin there? Robin's supposed to have come to your house." Madam was doing her homework, and I went upstairs and I said, "Have you seen Robin?" And she said, "No." And so Robin wasn't at my house.
This is on the same day she disappeared?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was like 8:30 or 8:35 at night when her mom called, when Judy called. And I believe that around 9 o'clock, because I didn't wait long, I called Jack Savage, and he answered the phone, and I said, "Robin has disappeared." And her mom called here and wanted to know if she was here. She's not here. He didn't even finish what I had to say. He said, "Well, I hope the bitch is dead."
That night?
Yes. And I said, "She's just disappeared. I didn't know anything." And he said, "She's blaming my son for the baby, and she's welfare trash." And he was just screaming. And as nearly as I recall, I hung up the phone on him. He was angry. I mean, it was wrath.
Jack's response to the news that a teenager went missing speaks volumes about his character, but we still need to get closer to understanding what his involvement could have been in Robin's death.
Hello, Elsie?
Yes.
So the next person we're interviewing is a former mother-in-law of Jack's son, Lee, who can talk about the family from an insider's perspective.
Did Lee ever talk to you about his relationship with Robin?
Lee told me that he could be the father of the baby.
So he kind of felt that he may be the baby's father?
Well, the way he talked, it was either him or his dad.
Lee's dad was having sex with Robin as well?
Way Lee talked,
How'd Lee feel about that?
he wasn't too happy about it.
Hey, thanks for taking the time and speaking with me.
So maybe Jack has issues on wanting to date very young girls, or not date them, have sex with them.
Yeah.
"23 years ago, Robin Stone and her unborn child were found dead, and nobody has ever been held responsible. We have recently learned that one of our suspects, Jack Savage, who was known to have hated Robin, may actually have been the father of her child. Since we feel that paternity could be a very strong motive, it's now essential that we get DNA evidence from Jack and Lee Savage as quickly as possible. We'll need a search warrant to get those DNA samples because in the state of Ohio, a court order to get DNA from a suspect is actually harder than in other states. So in this particular case, we wanted to get additional evidence to support our probable cause for the search warrant. But our investigators have come up with an outside-the-box idea that I think is a great option. My understanding is that your DA is ready to draft a search warrant if y'all can figure out a way to get a buccal swab, a DNA sample from another of Lee's children. If someone else inside the Savage family is agreeable to volunteer DNA evidence, we can compare that to the remains of Robin's baby. If we get a match, there's a high probability then that the baby was fathered by one of the Savages. And then we can get a warrant for Jack and Lee's DNA and find out for sure who the actual father is.
Well, I'm Sergeant Williams with the Sheriff's Office, Guernsey County.
Sergeants Mackey and Williams have been in touch with Lee's daughter, Valerie Wheeler.
What this is about, we were never able to determine the paternity of who Robin's baby was. If your father was the baby's father, that'd be a brother or sister that you had. So you'd want to know that too, I'm sure. I think the quickest way, if it's okay with you, is just do a consensual swab of your mouth.
You okay with that, Valerie?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So I'll do one side, then I'll do the other.
Well, thank you. It was nice meeting you.
While waiting for our DNA, we're going to gather as much information as possible, and we're going to start with Lee's past wives and girlfriends.
What we're working on here is a case involving a girl named Robin Stone.
Have you heard of this? One of my best friends.
Is that right?
We went to church camp together.
I'm going to get into some kind of personal information here, but it's things I need to know. Lee Savage, how many times do you think he became physically abusive with you?
Oh, jeez. A lot.
Okay.
He broke my tailbone once, pushed me out the back door of my mom's house.
What would trigger him to get violent?
Don't take much. He has a fuse about this long.
All about control.
Yes. He has control of everything.
How controlling was he during times you had sex with him?
Just choked me and made me pass out during sex.
Does he like that? I mean, he likes to choke people out during sex? Was that a normal thing with him?
He's only done it a couple times, but that second time he knocks me out, that's when no more, because that's scary.
Was he ever arrested for any of that stuff? Did you file any report?
He wouldn't do me any good anyway. Anytime I ever went to the cops about Lee, he always got out of it, so I gave up.
Lee's got a violent temper. What she remembers most is his proclivity to choke people out during sexual activity, and she's afraid of him.
Didn't he?
What do you think?
I think he did. I've always thought he did. Lee showed me where they found Robin, which is like maybe not even a mile from his mom and dad. And it was his face expression whenever he showed me where she was found was just blank. I'm just so glad she's gonna lay to rest finally.
We're sure hoping to get there. Should be on the right side.
These stories of abuse are horrible. Lee has been married several times, so we need to talk to his other wives and girlfriends to see if he treated any of them this way.
Were you around Lee very much?
Yes, we were dating a long time ago. This was back when me and Robin hung out.
How was his temperament?
Oh, his temper's always been bad.
Did he ever get violent with you?
A little rough.
A little rough? What?
Okay, it's like during sexual thing or whatever.
Yeah.
We were supposed to have regular sex. The next thing I know, he was like grabbing me, you know, and wanting to do it the other way.
Do you remember Lee assaulting you?
Once.
Okay. What did he do to you? Did you have to go to the hospital?
No. Just smack across the face.
He punched you on your arms, your legs, and your chest as well.
Right.
What we look for are patterns. People don't change their behavior. There's some type of trigger in Lee. When he doesn't get what he wants, he's prone to use violence, especially sexual activity. When these women tell him no, he right away engages in either forced sexual activity or choking them. I'm going to ask you a question. I don't know how to ask you, but I'm just going to ask you. Did he ever choke you during intercourse?
Yes.
Did you pass out?
No.
Lee's history of violence suggests that he could be capable of killing Robin Stone with his bare hands.
Hello. Hi, this is Captain Payton with the Guernsey County Sheriff's Office. How are you doing?
According to past statements, Lee had threatened a former member of the Savage family with physical harm after she had gotten a divorce and was out of the family.
We're actually looking into the Robin Stone case again.
We had a rough divorce. Now, his brother did make the comment to me after the divorce and everything with that. I was lucky that what had happened to me was all that happened because it could have been worse. Like, he goes, well, you're lucky I don't do to you what I done to that other girl.
Wait, that's real important what you just said. Lee Savage said to you that you're lucky That I don't do to you what I did to that other girl? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the words that come out of his mouth.
Okay. We'll get back with you.
Thank you.
One of the most common phrases that leads police to a killer is like the one Lee said to this woman, "You're lucky I don't do to you what I did to that girl." That statement right there makes me think we're hot on the trail of our killer. That is awesome.
Windows cannot open this file.
Would you like some help, Detective Williams?
They need that in a minute. All right, here we go. I'm gonna print it.
We're investigating the mysterious death of Robin Stone, a pregnant teenager who was killed mysteriously in 1991. Our two suspects are her former boyfriend, Lee Savage, his father, Jack, both whom could possibly be the father of her child. And now we're getting results from DNA from Robin's unborn child and one of Lee's children that may show a close enough DNA match to allow police to legally compel Jack and Lee themselves to give a DNA sample. So we can find out for certain if either one of them is the father.
Okay. Probability of half siblingship, 99.84%. 618 to 1. That's good news.
It could go to either one.
Oh, absolutely.
Between the two, you got definite motive here.
That gives us probable cause for a search warrant, right?
Let's go ahead and tell everybody. Well, you're gonna like that you're barking up the right tree.
This is fantastic. It's exactly what we need to justify a search warrant, so Sam and Jason are on their way.
Good to go?
All right.
Now that we have a warrant in hand, we are on the way to Jack Savage's house to get his DNA swab and to ask him about the death of Robin Stone.
Hello.
What do you need?
Are you Jack?
Yeah.
I just wondered if you had a minute I could talk to you.
Sure. Nice to meet you. Well, working on this Robin Stone investigation. Of course, that happened 23 years ago. What do you think happened, Mr. Savage? What?
Well, I don't know what happened.
Of course, she dated Lee at one point. Was she ever up here? Did you ever meet her or anything?
I met her at the apartments that they lived, where my daughter lived.
Okay.
And she talked my son into dating her when she was 4 months pregnant.
Was there ever anything where she was trying to pin it on him that he was the...
Well, she made all kind of telephone calls.
Robin did?
All the time. Accusing him of being the father, so to speak, and hell, he never met her till after she was 4 months pregnant. You know.
This is a bizarre statement from Jack Savage because it's common knowledge that Lee and Robin were together long before she was 4 months pregnant, a fact confirmed by multiple witnesses.
Did you ever know exactly where she was found?
I had no interest. I didn't give a shit what happened to that girl.
We've learned a few things recently.
Some information we've learned is there's been a DNA test done with a 99.8% probability is that it belongs to your son.
Couldn't have been.
And that's why we're here.
Come out and give me life like it.
That's not a lie.
Because it couldn't have happened. She was 4 months pregnant when he was introduced.
Okay.
Now, I know that for a fact.
Jack, I'm not lying to you. The lab said it could be a possibility. It was Lee, or it could be his father.
I come here today to get a DNA sample from you. And all that is a cotton swab of your mouth, just like a Q-tip.
Well, you can have that.
Okay. Well, I got a warrant
But
for
don't come back and say that I'm part of that, because, buddy, I'll blow your ass off.
I'll blow your ass off?
Yeah. I'll blow your ass off.
That's what he said. Can we call you if they get the results and they say it's you? Come back out.
Come on in person.
Why?
Tell me that.
Why is that? Because you think we're lying?
It says right out there, no trespassing.
Yeah, but this...
I'll put a gun on you.
I can't believe you want to shoot us if we come back. You don't want to threaten Mr. Savage.
Come back and tell me I'm part of that.
You know, I mean, we're not saying this way or the other. It's just...
There ain't no goddamn way I can be a part of this.
When someone is as hostile and defensive as Jack Savage is being, it makes me wonder what the heck he's hiding.
He's not very nice.
Not nice at all.
I didn't think he liked you. Must have been your sunglasses.
No, I took them off.
That's what the problem was, your beady eyes.
Yeah.
Now, finally, it's time to approach Lee himself.
Up here on the left.
Just pull in somewhere, Steve.
Yeah, he can't see us here. Oh. Jump on the back.
Hopefully, he'll be more cooperative than his dad. and we can ask him some questions before presenting him with the warrant.
We'll switch places. You can sit up there, I'll sit in the back.
Okay.
You can get the air conditioning.
How you doing?
Jason Mackey.
Jason?
Sam Williams.
You look familiar, Sam.
You do too.
So what's going on?
Well, of course you know Robin Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been taking a look at that file, trying to clear that case out. It's just all these years, you know.
There's so much there that we don't know. We just kind of like to see if you would shed some light.
Geez, just thinking back. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's a couple days ago.
Yeah. You guys want to do this now, then?
It's nervous. Well, we have the files back at the office. We were out just cruising around when I called you.
Okay.
It just happened to work out good.
That's fine.
Lee is much more laid back than his father.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
Either he's done nothing wrong or he's just a better liar. We're about to find out.
Okay. Okay.
Our main suspect, Lee Savage, has always denied to friends and family that he was the father of Robin's unborn child, who was killed along with her back in 1991.
Did Lee think he could be the father?
He thought that it was one of the guys, this list of guys that she had.
Lee just kept denying it was his baby.
He never wanted nothing to do with kids.
He told you that?
Yes.
He said he wasn't going to put up with it.
But now we've acquired a warrant for Lee's DNA, so we're finally going to know if he's the child's father. Detectives Mackey and Williams have asked Lee to come down so we can get his DNA, but in addition to that, there are still a lot of questions that need to be answered.
No, we had heard that you dated her, that you were possibly the father of her child.
I dated her. I was 14 when I met her. We dated for like 3 or 4 months.
3 or 4
Through
months.
summer. It was literally through a summer. It became kind of bland. I'll tell you why, because I was dating everybody. I just, yeah.
At some point, she comes over and she's pregnant. Do you remember when that would have been?
I hadn't been with her in 9 months. She had come to me the following spring, and I'm wanting to say early summer, and said that she was pregnant.
This is the exact opposite of the story that Jack Savage, Lee's father, gave us, that Robin was 4 months pregnant when she and Lee started dating. But it still doesn't match what multiple witnesses have said about the timeline of Lee and Robin's relationship.
When you guys would have sex, did you use protection?
No, actually, we didn't. We had anal sex.
Okay.
I was a virgin. I was a virgin until I was 16 years old.
Always had anal sex with her?
Yeah.
Never...
Or head job. And that's why Robin never come to me to look at me and say, you're the father. And I know she didn't. I know she couldn't.
She never accused you of being a...
No.
Okay. When do you think was the last time you seen her before she came up
Was
missing?
just right at the beginning, end of spring, beginning of summer, and that's when I had seen her at my sister's house. That was the last time I ever saw her.
So we're talking, you're thinking 3 to 4 months before she came up missing is the last time you actually physically laid eyes on her?
Yeah.
Okay.
After letting Lee tell his version of the story, Sam brings out the notes that Captain Van Horn took a long time ago in a long interview he did of Lee.
I found Van Horn's statement that we talked to you about where he made some notes when you talked to him. And I don't want you to go into the panic mode because I know
I'm
that
not going to go into panic mode.
23
I didn't
years.
see her.
See those arms are crossing now?
Oh, yeah, you're right. They haven't been crossed at all before now.
You can see he's starting to
Close up.
Yeah.
Well, here's what Van Horn wrote that you had said. You told him that you had dated Robin for about 9 months. That sound right?
Holy shit. I didn't think I dated her that long.
And then you advised that Robin had wanted to put your name on the birth
I
certificate.
never said that. I never even talked to her about birth certificate. I did.
This here, we had sent DNA standards in. And according to the lab, there's a 99.84% that you're the father. We were able to send, there were fetal bones when she was found.
The baby was there?
Mm-hmm. Those were preserved.
Man, that's disgusting.
Well, it
Jesus
is.
Christ. I didn't think I ever had sex with her. And we had anal sex and we had blowjobs and stuff.
Yeah.
You mean the one time I might have done sex?
So now it's one time.
That was going to be your first child. And I hate to tell you like this.
Someone killed my kid. Someone killed Robin and killed my kid.
Yes. And we need your help today.
Lee's lies about his relationship with Robin are catching up with him. He's contradicted his own statements left and right, so now there's only one thing left to do.
Does he have a search warrant? You're serving
Search
me with?
warrant for what that is, it's a Q-tip, a swab inside your mouth. We'll ship that out, and we'll know in 2 days. What'd you guys think?
I think you played it in as well as you could. He's, you know, he crosses his arms at some of the stuff. He's laying back, you know.
Oh, his
first
mouth's
it's just
dry as shit, even after he drank.
That was good. Okay, so here's what the good thing was, and I wrote them all down. Every time you called him in a little bitty lie where another witness disputed what he said. Because the point of a cold case is to catch him in lies that other people can dispute or refute. It's not to catch him saying, okay, you're right, I did it. That's not going to happen. And then when you hit him with the fact that he's the baby's daddy, all of a sudden he's crawfishing a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he teared up on that.
Yeah,
That hit him.
yeah.
Okay, I want to turn this over to Captain Payton, have Captain Payton rush this down to FedEx. Thank you, buddy.
I'll get this mailed out.
All right, hot off the press. Just got an email. This is on the paternity analysis. All right, hot off the press. Just got an email. This is on the paternity analysis. All right. Says Jack Savage is excluded as the biological father of the fetus of Robin Stone. 0% probability. 352,245 to 1. Lee Savage is not excluded as the biological father of the fetus of Robin Stone. 99.99% probability.
Woo!
He's the daddy.
All right, so that means after 23 years and everybody wondering if Lee Savage really had the motive, we can say today the odds of him being the daddy are as good as they get, because there's no 100%. Can't get any better. So when you consider Lee's history of violence,
he broke my tailbone once, pushed me out the back door of my mom's house.
He punched you on your arms, your legs, and your chest as well.
Right.
all the lies and contradictions he made during his interview,
You'd said that you dated Robin for about 9 months.
Really?
Robin had wanted to put your name on the birth certificate.
Said that.
the fact that Robin's body was found in a spot less than a mile from Lee's house, a spot that he is known to frequent, and add in the fact that he is the father of Robin's child, something he never wanted to be, you have a case good enough to present to the prosecutor, which is exactly what Detective Mackey and Williams are on their way to do. Are y'all fired up?
We're ready. Been waiting 23 years for this.
Good
We'll
luck,
be back.
good luck.
Thanks.
Don't forget anything.
We won't. We got it.
Listen to Mom now, okay?
Hey.
Hey!
Jason and Sam are back from seeing the prosecutor, and we're all anxious to see how it went. Y'all making us suffer.
Well, we talked to Dan. He definitely agrees we made a lot of progress this week on. There's a lot of things he likes about the case and where we've come. He was really impressed with all these things that Lee, you know, his story has totally changed over the years. But there are some things he wants us to continue on. And once we get and we tighten up the screws a little bit on there, he's definitely open to presenting this down the road.
We always want to hear their prosecutor will present a case to a grand jury right away, but I'm not the one taking this to court. Prosecutor Dan Padden has to present this in court one day, and he has to feel comfortable with what he has. One thing I do know is that Sam and Jason are going to keep working and make this case against Lee Savage even stronger. Well, it was wonderful being here. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you again.
You're very welcome. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Kelly, Yolanda, Steve, and Johnny, they were awesome to work with, a great experience. Can't thank them enough for everything that they did.
Thank you very much. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hi, guys.
Been a long week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's why Sam wanted to call y'all today.
Okay, there's two things that we did find out through DNA. One is it was a boy.
Oh. He ain't here with us.
you know, but at least now I know what he was. Maybe me and Jamie can figure a name out.
And the other is that Lee Savage is the father of the baby.
We talked to the prosecutor today. There's just a few more things that he wants us to do just to kind of tighten up, and then he is considering taking this case to the grand jury here down the road.
Oh, that's great. That's
good.
Wow.
Well, it's because of this man right here.
Yes.
That case just sat here for 23 years until this man right here picked it up and made all this happen. So he's the one you owe thanks to. So you get to pester him all you want to.
Okay,
It was very nice meeting y'all. Come here and give me a hug. You take care of your mom, okay?
Yeah. It's been a long time, and my sister can finally rest in peace.
We'll be talking probably a lot over the next few weeks, keeping you up to date on what's going on.
Okay.
All right,
For
thank you
helping
guys.
us. We've made a lot of progress this week, and one of the best things is that we can now answer some of Judy's questions. All of the other little pieces of the story that she's tortured herself with in the past 23 years, maybe we can give her a little bit more of those answers and a little bit of peace. On December 17, 1981, a woman in Oakwood Village, Ohio, noticed something strange at her neighbor's house.
When I took my kids to school, my son said, "Mom, Alma's door is open." I don't know how long the door had been open. The snow had...
She was only 29 years old when she was murdered.
Right.
Alma Nalsinger was a single mom with 3 children in probably what was one of the safest places in the country.
She was a tiny little thing, too.
5'3", 104 pounds. Sweet little Alma, who shouldn't have had an enemy in the world, somebody wanted her dead. You have to look into everybody in her life at the time to see if any of them had some kind of issues going on that would make them so mad at her they would beat her to death like that.
I know.
32 years. It's a long time. Maybe there's more we can find out.
This will be a challenge because the case was originally investigated by the local law, who did their best at the time. But this was before forensics as we know it today.
He hadn't worked a whole lot of murder cases because they don't have that many here.
Good for them.
Yeah. When I read the case, it scared me because it's 32 years old. That's a lifetime. And how many witnesses can still be alive and still be locals? It only takes like 2 good witnesses to make a case. You don't have to have 56.
We want 56, but we'll take 2.
Do it. If they're good, that's all you need. So now we have to try and figure out who had the anger and the means to murder poor Alma and leave those babies without a mother.
It has been 16 years and still no answer.
Police consider her killing a cold case.
Years later, the case is still unsolved.
There are so many cold cases out there just waiting to be solved.
The crime scene ultimately tells the story of the murder.
We want to bring justice to these victims.
Nice, cool little PD, huh?
Yeah.
Hi. Yolanda
Rob Garcia.
McClary. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm
Brian
Kelly.
Hi.
Hi, Sheriff.
Hi, Jason Landers.
Boy, you're tall.
Yeah,
I've heard
you
that before.
I'm glad you guys are here.
Oh, we're excited.
The size of our office, it kind of limits us to work these cold cases, so it means a lot to us. We appreciate it. And I'm sure the family does as well. Paulding's a small community. We're rural. We don't have a lot of homicides here, and we don't want to. Back in 1981, I was in elementary school. Growing up, I heard about Alma's case. The fact that someone was brutally murdered in our area affected a great deal of people. So it's not only some closure potentially for the families, but it's also closure for our community.
So you got a place set up for us to work in?
Yeah, we got a war room back here if you want to follow me.
The Paulding County Jail is only 7 years old.
Oh, I love it.
Make us feel right at home, huh? But because it's not currently in use, it's going to serve as our workspace this week.
Y'all are finally where y'all belong in jail. You too. Alan Brown.
Rob Garcia.
Rob.
Nice to meet you.
Brian Hannacraft.
Brian.
Nice to
Alan
meet you.
Brown. I'm excited.
Helping Yolanda and me out this week is Alan Brown. Y'all want to sit down and start talking about the case?
Yeah, I'm ready when you are.
Alan is coming on this case because we're working with Deputy Rob Garcia, who really wants to learn. And Alan is very patient, and he likes teaching, so that ought to be a good combination. You want to start and tell us about the case?
It's a homicide of Alma Knopfsinger. She was a single mom, had 3 kids from 2 marriages, divorced twice, on December 17th of 1981.
Well, that's going to either be the 15th or 16th.
But the 17th is when she's found.
Yes. Alma's body was discovered on Thursday the 17th, but she was last seen alive just 2 days prior by her neighbor. Because the medical examiner was unable to establish a specific time of death, all we know for sure is that she was killed somewhere in that 3-day time span.
Okay, y'all want to start with this suspect first? Who's this, Rob?
David Delgado Sr.
David Delgado is Alma's first ex-husband and the father of her 2 oldest children, Debbie and Davy. She had recently given custody of those 2 children back to him.
He's still involved in her life.
Even though she had turned over their kids to him recently, it was still kind of a raw, fresh thing. She was regretting it. They were adjusting. There could have been some resentment going on with that.
Yep.
She had given custody back to David for a reason, so we need to look into that relationship to figure out why that could have been. There's no better motivator for getting people fired up than a divorce and custody and all that.
And then also, he's under the influence of Maria.
Alma and David had been divorced for a little while. He had moved on. He was dating a lady named Maria. David and Maria eventually got married, but back then Maria had some serious issues with the fact that Alma was still around in the world of David. She hated Alma.
She hated Alma.
Mutually hated each other. Yep.
Alma was a threat to her. Alma's always calling with every problem she has. David's always helping her. New girlfriend doesn't like that too much. She thinks there's too much of an attachment there.
Alma had been sending David cards. Let's get back together. I'm missing you. And that was threatening to Maria. Her next move is to go to Steve.
Maria goes to Stephen, who's Alma's second husband, and shows him these cards that Alma had been sending David. And the cards implied that Alma wanted to get back together with David.
I mean, a lot of girls hate the ex-wife, but she actually took her ammunition to Steve and showed it to him, trying to cause trouble. That was more of a bitch move than most women would do.
Yeah.
Maria was a suspect in the original investigation. She failed her polygraph, but polygraphs are not admissible in the courtroom, which makes it even more important that we go and talk to her again and ask her all of our questions. So the last suspect is Steve Knopfsinger. Steve Knopfsinger is Alma's most recent ex-husband. The 2 had met while working together at a meat processing plant called the Dinner Bell. They married and had 1 son named Ryan. When he was 2, they got divorced and she gained custody.
He was making an effort at the time to try to reconcile.
He was very jealous, apparently.
He's definitely committed to that relationship, but she's not.
He wasn't over her, she was over him.
Correct. Correct.
Maria stirs the pot. Alma and Steve start getting separated. Divorce is filed. It gets final pretty fast, and 7 months later, she's dead. So Alma had 2 ex-husbands, and one of them is with a very jealous woman who goes crazy if he even talks to her. I can't tell you how many cases are prosecuted that were because of a divorce. Those issues between people never go away. Our first stop is to visit the members of Alma's family. We want to go meet them and see how they've dealt with this horrible tragedy. Hello.
Howdy.
Hi. It's so nice to meet you. I'm
Same
Kelly.
here. Hi,
I'm
Kelly. It has been very trying not knowing who did it and that they're still out there. This case has been open for 32 years. It's time.
Tell us some stories about Alma. When she was a little girl, what was she like?
Oh, she was quiet.
She was?
She's very quiet.
She was very, very caring.
In 71, she was seeing David. They met at the high school here in Defiance, and she got pregnant with her first child. They had gotten married and didn't tell anybody.
Oh. Well, it seemed like she was really in love with him.
At the time, yes. Yeah. Yes.
Was she a good mom?
Yes, she was. She adored Davy. I talked to her almost every weekend.
Okay.
It was just, how are the kids, you know, and just
She
general
never gave
stuff.
you any hints about what was going on? Nothing?
Never.
She kept it all to herself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you first heard, what'd that do to your mom and dad?
Oh, devastated.
You guys showing up, this happening now. If, excuse me.
Okay. I think about her every day, and everybody else does too. So,
We're going to try our very hardest and try and find everybody we can to put all the little pieces together.
Good.
Okay?
Yes.
There's hope.
We're investigating the death of Alma Knopfsinger, who was murdered in her bed while she was sleeping in 1981.
Welcome to the mock crime scene. Because we no longer have access to Alma's home, we've set up a mock crime scene. My hope is that it can still teach us something about the case. The blue lines would be your walls. So while Alma was sleeping, I know in these pictures you see a lot of blood.
When you look at her, you got blood from the waist up, which would indicate someone's sitting on her
Yeah.
and hitting her.
If I'm on top of you and I'm trying to hold you down, say I am striking you, and you're trying to get up, you're moving hard, you're moving your face around that pillow, those sheets, everything. She literally has abrasions on her chin. So what's hitting her head? We're not seeing anything distinctive here. Like a hammer will leave that round mark impression that you can see. No weapon was found in this case. Whatever was used as a weapon wasn't anything heavy enough to cause the skull to completely cave in. Now, she does have skull fractures, so I would probably gear more towards a material like wood, because metal caves and wood doesn't tend to do that. She also has on her arm a small 1/8 inch in diameter puncture wound. Both of her hands are so swollen and black and blue. And in fact, her left hand is broken.
Plus, remember when she was found, she actually had...
She was hit.
A lot more than 7.
If her hands were taking some of these blows to the point that one broke, that tells me that she was hit far more than what we can tell just from her skull damage.
When you have those blows directed like to the face and the head area, that's like a personal attack. I mean, that is like...
And how angry the person was, how they had to know who it was, how they had to know where they were going.
And that's not just, I meant to kill her, that's, I'm mad and I mean to kill her.
A lot of rage.
We need to find out which of our 3 suspects, David, Maria, or Steve, could have hated Alma enough to commit this brutal murder. We're going to start by looking at the person Alma was closest with, her first ex-husband, David. How did Alma feel that David ended up with the 2 kids?
Well, she just missed them kids so much, and she said it was foolish that she gave them up. I mean, she was really upset.
After marrying Steve and having Ryan, Alma gave custody of her 2 oldest children, Debbie and Davy Jr., back to their father, David. It's possible that this was still a point of contention between Alma and David Sr.
Did Alma have a good relationship with Dave, her first husband?
Yes.
With the kids and everything?
I never saw nothing out of control, or you know what I'm saying? Dave and her kind of was trying to get back together. And of course, Dave's girlfriend, Maria, didn't like the idea. A few times I met her, I had heard she was a very jealous woman.
Was jealous over Alma coming around and being around?
Right.
Maria has motive because Alma is attempting to get back with David.
David has motive because he's moved on with his life. He's got his kids, he's got his girlfriend, and then here comes Alma getting in the way. So either David or Maria could have been upset enough with Alma that they would be willing to kill her.
So y'all are headed to the airport like around noon?
Yes. And we're hoping to talk to them tonight.
Well, while y'all are having fun, we'll be taking care of business here. Right, Brian?
All right. We'll be in touch.
David and Maria ended up getting married and live out in the Houston area. So Alan and Rob are going to go to Texas to talk to them.
What I always try to do when I go on these deals is try to figure out something new to ask or close up a few loopholes. How you doing? Alan Brown.
Dave Delgado.
Deputy Garcia.
You guys have got some pretty good evidence to come all the way down here.
We're doing all right. Yeah. We don't want to tap a lot of your time. Is Maria here too? Can we talk to her and then maybe talk to you?
Sure.
Did you ever have any crosswords with Alma at all?
Not really.
You remember when Alma signed the custody papers over and gave her kids full custody to David?
I was just told about it, but I don't really remember.
Tell us about the cards that were being sent and you found.
Oh, well, I mean, how would you like it if your wife or girlfriend was receiving notes and, you know, thinking of you, cards?
We interviewed Maria for roughly an hour. And we were very pointed in our questions because we wanted to know if she was angry enough to kill Alma.
So when you find these cards and you go to Steve, how does that transpire?
We met downtown in Defiance, and I told him, I said, hey, why is Alma sending David these cards? You know, I should have never said that, but...
So he wasn't happy about that?
Yeah. To me now it seems childish. I mean, I could have just...
By showing Stephen Knopfsinger those cards,
that caused a rift in Steve and Alma's marriage.
She basically got this ball rolling, which caused the divorce.
Well, we appreciate your time.
To me,
Maria has motive, but it's very light. And she was very straightforward. I got no vibes from Maria that she had any intention on ever harming Alma. So knowing Alma, you're her first ex-husband.
Yeah, we've been together for many years, so she'd always confide in me or, ask for advice or whatever,
She appears to be a good mother and a good person. Would that be your opinion of her?
True, because even during the divorce, I said, look, you can have the cars, you can have the house, the whole thing, just let me have custody of the kids. She said, no.
So at what point did she really start trying to get back with you?
When she was pregnant, she comes to me and I said, I'm sorry. I just can't, have me come back or, get married again or whatever because I just couldn't help it. So I guess there were some things that was going on with Steve that I didn't know. She didn't know where to go to. She didn't know what to do anymore.
Right.
And so now I guess I had no choice, just get married then. Well, then after a while, it's like, well, now he has her.
According to David, Alma had confided in him that she didn't even want to marry Stephen.
She tried to back out. She went through with it because she was pregnant with Ryan. She knew she made a big mistake. But she related to you that the reason for giving the kids custody to you was because of Stephen.
Yes. Yeah.
And what he was doing to him, his treatment.
Yeah. Steve couldn't get along with David and Debbie. They always talked about Steve getting a rubber band and always hitting Debbie with a rubber band. It's just out of meanness. She'd make Debbie cry, and after a while, Alma just couldn't take it. She said, "Okay, you can have custody of the kids." Well, I knew right there that that's not like her.
In talking to David, it didn't appear he had any kind of grudge towards Alma over the children or anything else.
We appreciate your time.
Hopefully, we get that resolved.
Thank you.
You turn back.
Did you miss us?
Actually, yeah, when you're on an airplane that long, we could even miss you guys.
We've learned that Alma Knopfsinger gave up custody of her children, Debbie and Dave Jr., because of problems with her second husband, Steve. That's a big sacrifice for a mother to make, and that tells us that things must have been really bad with Alma and Steve. Does anybody still feel like David Delgado and Maria Delgado need to be on the suspect board?
Not at all.
Not at all.
All right, let's take them down.
With David and Maria cleared, this is a case with one suspect, Stephen Knopfsinger.
Hello?
Hello, is this David?
Yes, this is David.
This is Lieutenant Hanacrat at the Paulding County Sheriff's Office. How are you?
Hi, fine.
David Jr. was 10 years old when his mother was murdered, but he lived with Alma and Steve before she gave up custody.
Well, Ryan was little, so I don't remember a lot. He was never nice to me and my sister. We weren't his real kids, like Ryan was. But Steve definitely would get physical with my mom. When I went into, the family room one day, and Steve was, holding my mom by the arms and grabbing her real hard and stuff, and, me being a little kid, I was like, leave my mom alone. He just yelled at me, and he was like, you want me to break her arms right here, right now?
Alma never filed any police reports of domestic violence, which means that if Steve is Alma's killer, anything that Debbie and Davey Jr. saw with their own eyes or heard with their own ears could be crucial to this case. Can you talk a little bit about what, if anything, you remember about your mom?
I don't have a lot of memories since I was pretty young.
Right.
Growing up without a mom was difficult. And it wasn't until I had a child of my own that I realized, probably how difficult things were for my mom. It's still hard. It's really hard to not have her.
What do you remember about Steve?
I don't have that many memories of him, just that he was not a really nice guy. He would yell at me a lot, and he would definitely favor my half-brother, Ryan.
Okay. So not a lot of fond memories there then of Steve.
No, I can't think of one.
What about you and Ryan?
We didn't grow up together. Started talking to him when we were in high school. I just knew that he was my brother, and so I wanted to have a relationship with him. I had asked him growing up, did he know that we existed? And he said that, in pictures, me and my brother would be in them, but his dad had told him that we were neighbor kids. she didn't tell them that, he had a brother and a sister.
You hear that story, and I lived in a small town. I went to a high school like that. How do you grow up in a town this size and never know that on the other side of town are two people that are your blood, that are your brother and your sister? How can that happen unless someone is diabolically manipulative and trying to keep it from you for some crazy reason?
What about you and Ryan today?
We've just never been able to see eye to eye on certain things, his dad being one of them. So we just had a huge falling out, and that was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Thank you for all your help.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, Debbie, bye-bye. We don't want to talk to Ryan right now because he's still close to Steve, but we've managed to track down another witness that could be really valuable, an ex that Steve was with 17 years after Alma's death. But we'll go up there and order 3 coffees and then bring her out here.
Okay.
Our witness lived with Steve. Her opinion or anything Steve might have told her about Alma could tell us what kind of man we're dealing with.
He said he was a widow, that she was an undercover cop and was killed in a car accident.
Did it seem like he was affected by it?
He said, I'll always love her. She'll always be in my heart. Several weeks to a month maybe passed. I went to the public library and I got a hold of some newspaper articles. I knew something was really wrong.
That should have scared you.
So when Steve did come home, I said, I'm gonna go visit my mom. And that's when he knocked me on the shoulder and he said, what in the hell's wrong with you? I said, there's nothing wrong with me, I have to go. And I walked out of the house that fast. I was plenty scared that day. He said, when are you coming home? I said, I'm not ever coming home.
She might not have suffered the same physical abuse that Alma did, but this woman was smart and brave and strong enough to leave as soon as she did.
I remember him saying, you'll always be in my heart. But nobody will ever take that away from me.
That's the same thing he told you about how he felt about Alma, and look what happened to her.
Yes.
As we expand our investigation to the people who were close enough in Steve's life, we come to his family.
You have a seat right back in that corner.
Okay.
There's not much from them at all in the case files, so they could have some new information.
Jim, you may have some information for us on this homicide case.
Well, I was married to Steve's sister.
What can you tell me about it?
I remember hearing that he could have done it. That was the atmosphere amongst the family at the time.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any firsthand knowledge of that?
I remember hearing that there was a nightstick or a stick he had in the car.
Okay.
Beside the driver's seat.
Steve had the club in his car?
Yeah. He used it for, like, when he was hunting or whatever, to hit the animals if they wasn't dead, this kind of stuff.
A wooden club could have caused most of Alma's injuries, especially the type of damage seen in Alma's skull. It's worth trying to find out more about it.
Did Elaine ever say she's seen it?
I think so, yeah.
Would she stick up for Steve? Would she tell us her true feelings?
If you ask her a question, she's going to answer honestly.
Okay.
No matter what.
Hi, Elaine. How are you?
We talked to your ex-husband, Jim.
Yeah.
And do you remember Steven ever carrying a club in his car?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah. It's called a smoke stick.
A smoke stick. Describe a smoke stick to me.
It's a long piece of wood.
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking it's like...
So that's about 3 feet?
Yeah.
2.5, 3 feet.
They would hang half a beef on it at dinner bell.
Okay.
Something like that.
Hang a half a beef, so like
hang meat on it.
A stick and then the hook would hang on it?
From what I gather, yeah.
Yeah.
This smoke stick could possibly match Alma's injuries, but it only helps our case if we can prove that Steve had it at the time of the murder.
What did he carry it for?
Protection.
Did he still have it in the time frame of when all this transpired?
He had already gotten rid of it.
Why did he get rid of it?
Oh, he mentioned that Ryan wanted to play with it, and he didn't want Ryan to play with it.
Okay.
Because Steve got rid of the smoke stick, it's impossible that we'll find it 32 years after the fact. All of a sudden, the stick was missing after the murder, and he comes up with, well, I just didn't want Ryan playing with it.
That's a bullshit excuse.
The smoker stick would be a perfect weapon, but without it, it's a bust. We got nothing.
We still need insight that can connect Steve Noffsinger to the murder of his ex-wife, Alma. So we're on our way to question Steve's sister, Cheryl, and her husband, Tom. She is his sister, so you have that bond from being a sibling, and they don't want to tell. You know, they don't want to be the one that says, I put my brother in prison.
At first, it appears they don't want to talk to us. And then Tom tells us the whole family's scared of Stephen Noffsinger. He's violent and he's odd. So Tom tells me that Steve Noffsinger had a wife before Alma, and they had a son that was stillborn. And that after that, Stephen was never the same. When it came to Stephen's first living son, Ryan, he didn't care about Alma, he didn't care about the divorce, he didn't care about anything but Ryan.
When you work on cases like this, you always want to try and figure out why someone would commit such a horribly brutal murder. So the question is, because Steve lost his first child, does the possibility of losing Ryan become the trigger for him brutally murdering Alma? And going through all the divorce paperwork, I found this. They file for the divorce, then they try to reconcile. In the middle of the counseling time period, this says, on or about the 8th day of March, while at their home, the plaintiff, that's Stephen, he's the one that filed for the divorce, did physically abuse her by grabbing her by the arm and throwing her to the ground and threatening to break her arm.
So there's 2 incidents?
At least 2. Yeah, and this is when they're supposed to be getting back together again.
Okay.
He's at his best to convince her to stay with him, and that's what happened. 5 months later, she's dead. This is what he says in his affidavit, filing for divorce. My wife departed the marital domicile Thursday, January 29th, 81. I fear that if my wife is granted custody of the child, that she will keep the child from me and I will never see the child again. It's looking to me like Steve was going to go along with divorcing Alma, but when he wasn't going to get custody of Ryan, he could not handle it. When Steve went to court to get custody completely in his name, it says in here, for the reason that the child's natural mother died on December 16th, 1981. I thought that was kind of funny. It's pretty interesting that Steve is picking such a specific date because law enforcement never actually determined which day she died. Maybe he's got the date right. What do y'all think?
Yeah, because if you killed someone, you're not going to forget.
You can tell him, even the police are confused exactly when she died, but apparently you're not.
All we know for sure is that Alma died sometime between Tuesday the 15th and Thursday the 17th. Because Tuesday is the last time Alma was seen alive by her neighbor, Mary Schaefer.
So Mary Schaefer, who we're going to see, says that she was standing at her kitchen window, saw Alma drive in her driveway, didn't see anyone get out of the car, doesn't know if Ryan was with her.
I miss her. I miss her so much.
What do you remember about Steve or anyone else involved?
Steve was a hothead. Before I had even met Alma, she came over to my house one night, pouring down rain, and she said that her and Steve had gotten into a big fight. I said, "Do you want to call the cops?" And she said no.
So she was distraught enough to run out and go to somebody's house she's never been to before.
Right. I know she was scared of Steve.
How was Alma as far as letting Steve have the baby on his off days?
She would let him have him whenever he wanted him.
When is the last time you talked to Alma?
The Monday, just before she was killed. She just called me and told me that Steve was all upset. And they got into a big argument about it and stuff. And she told Steve that he wasn't going to get Ryan any more other than regular visitation time.
We may have just found the trigger that pushed a sick man over the edge.
She is going to be the DA's #1 star witness.
Heck yeah. I've worked a lot of cases where divorce is the motivating factor. I had a case where a woman left her husband and he pulled up to her house, got out of the car with the bat, and beat her upside the head with that baseball bat over and over and over again. You see that kind of anger and rage, and it tells you who the killer is, just like in this case. We need to always ask ourselves, who wanted Alma dead? I think it's time to prepare for a face-to-face confrontation with Steve.
We have the Defiance County Sheriff's Office ready to go. As far as we can tell, he was potentially home yesterday afternoon. He has a white Ford F-150 registered in his name, which was there yesterday. We've got the unmarked units ready to go. We've got security detail set several blocks away.
It's a big day. I'm hoping he'll talk to us freely.
What's the plan?
Just tell him that we reopened Alma's case and we'd like to talk to him. Don't say if you have time, because then it kind of gives people an out.
Rob and Alan Butler says the truck's in the driveway.
He doesn't see any movement. Just so you know.
We're here.
From what I've learned about Steve, it's possible he has quite a gun collection, so we have to be careful.
There they are.
Guess there's no doubt about where he stands on burglars.
Yeah. You see him down there?
I see them. He only has one vehicle that we know of, right?
Beware of the owner.
A guy with signs like that probably doesn't enter his door very easily. Because of those signs on the door, and because of people telling us how opinionated he is and how odd he is, I thought he was home. He just wasn't answering the door.
Come on, let's walk over and see. It was open a minute ago.
That was?
Yeah.
So he's home.
All right, we're gonna call him because I think he's in here.
Stephen Officer?
Yes.
Stephen, it's Deputy Garcia from the Paulding County Sheriff's Office. We're at your house. Are you home, sir?
No, not at the moment. I'm not.
Yes, he is.
Can we set up a time to talk to you?
Well, I'm out at the mall right now with a friend of mine.
Do you know where the Defiance Sheriff's Office is?
Yes, I do.
He ain't at the mall. I think he's really at the mall.
No, I think he's in his house.
Okay. There's a very good possibility he's in there.
I guess we'll go to the sheriff's office.
Sheriff Washington, you have a phone call in one. Sheriff 1-1.
This is him. So you're at home right now, huh?
Yes.
All right. It'll probably take me 10 or 15 minutes to get over there, but you're at home, right?
Yeah. Yes.
He says he's home and he has to stay there and watch the dogs.
He's always been home.
He's always been home.
I told him. It'll probably take me 10 or 15 minutes to get over there.
Steve Knopfsinger calls back and says, you know what, on second thought, I'm not coming down there. Y'all can come to my house if you want to talk to me.
I'm going to ask him, why'd you lie to us about being in the mall?
Because he's a freaky man that doesn't ever enter his door. So, you know, you got to do what you got to do. We load back up and go back towards his house. Steve is running us around town. He wants his interview to happen on his time at his place. It's going to be his way.
That's right.
Showtime.
Steve agrees to talk to Alan and Rob in his home. Meanwhile, we're all outside listening to every word. And right off the bat, Steve's acting like he barely even remembers Alma. Last time he sees her alive and he doesn't remember. If it was innocent, he would. Don't you remember the last time you saw your brother? Or the last time I saw my mom? You
Exactly.
remember. And we didn't do anything wrong. They ask him every question we have about Alma, about Ryan, about the abuse. His answer to nearly every question is, I don't remember.
He's pretty smart. He just won't say anything.
He's starting to get comfortable and close down, isn't he?
That happens in cold cases all the time. It's the I don't remember defense. Over 2 hours later, Rob and Alan have no choice but to just walk away.
When things became uncomfortable to Steve, if I had a question for him that he didn't seem to like, he had a drink, and he'd drink from it. And he'd get up and walk off and say, oh, let me go over here and get a towel. And he'd wipe the kitchen table and come back. My feeling is Steve was calculating and thinking of an answer, the right answer that he wanted to give. It's frustrating because there's nothing you can do about it.
What do you think?
I mean, he selectively chose to remember what he wanted to.
Right.
But he was pretty good at coming up with follow-up BS.
Yeah.
Steve doesn't add much to our case, but you don't prepare circumstantial evidence cases by hoping for a confession, because it doesn't usually happen. You have to build a probable cause that can stand all by itself, and that's what we hope we did this week. Okay, so we're pretty much done talking to witnesses at this point. Everything else on the board, all these points have now been addressed and corroborated and strengthened with live witnesses who can testify in a courtroom. The evidence that we found this week specifically shows a case that wasn't a theft, it wasn't a rape, it was personal.
We have a tremendous amount of blood.
And how angry the person was, how they had to know who it was, how they had to know where they were going.
And a suspect with a history of domestic abuse.
And I was like, leave my mom alone. And he just yelled at me, you want me to break her arms right here?
Who concealed the truth about Alma's death from the people that were closest to him.
He said that she was an undercover cop and was killed in a car accident.
The witnesses and the evidence in this case clearly shows that Steve had motive. He was upset about his divorce from Alma, and most importantly, in the days before her murder, they fought, and she threatened to take away from Steve the thing he cared about most in the whole world, his son Ryan.
She told Steve that he wasn't going to get Ryan anymore.
What we have is a probable cause that shows that Steve was so desperate to keep Ryan in his life, he elevated his abuse to murder. With all these factors, with all the witnesses, with all the evidence, do you feel like there's enough to talk to your DA?
Absolutely.
Rob?
Yes.
Brian?
My heart, 100%, I believe that we're on the right track.
On November 16, 2002, Bud and Latina Matlock were gunned down. Latina in her home and Bud outside in the front yard.
She was executed. It was weighed heavy on my heart.
The Maverick Police Department is still actively working the case, consulting closely with the District Attorney's Office. Paulding County has never had to work on a cold case before. So as Brian, Rob, and Jason bring in the prosecutor and present the probable cause to him, it's a chance to solve one for the first time.
At this point, we've accomplished quite a bit this week. My belief in what we have today, based off of all of our evidence, all of our interviews, based off of the original incident report, the crime scene photographs, and a multitude of people that are willing to come to Paulding County and testify under oath to the truth as they remember it, Steve Noffsinger is responsible for the murder of his ex-wife.
Okay, we're dying to know.
All right, so here's the deal. We laid things out for him. So I want you to be honest with me, give me your honest opinion. Can we take this to grand jury or can't we? And he said that he will take this to grand jury.
Oh, that's awesome.
Good for him.
That's beautiful. Whole new perspective on how to work cases and all these little things, how important they are.
I'm very grateful for the help that Kelly and Yolanda and Alan have been able to bring to Paulding County.
This is my first cold case, and I did learn a lot from it. It really opened my eyes.
Their talent, their knowledge, it's just been an awesome experience. And to bring some sort of peace or closure to Alma and her family and her friends is a feeling that's beyond words.
We can't wait to go tell Danny and Cece the good news. Usually it's kind of a nervous day, but this is going to be a good one. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Alma's oldest two children, Debbie and Davy, drive in to hear the news too. Well, we had a very busy week. Yesterday, the sheriff set up a meeting with the DA, Joe Burkhart, and then he said that he is very excited to take the case to a grand jury to ask them to indict Steve Noffsinger for the murder of your mom. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, isn't that awesome?
After 32 years, be a good ending to all this.
My mom will be very happy.
Yeah. And I think that when a jury of people here in this county hear it one day, they're not going to have any trouble finding him guilty.
Wow. I know it's a lot to take in.
It is
All
a lot
of your
to take
faces
in.
are just kind of like...
I think they're stunned.
Yeah. I'd kind of given up. Hopefully she'll get justice and closure and be at peace, and the family will too, and I will see her someday again.
Y'all don't have any contact with Ryan right now. You might reach out to him when you feel ready. He's lived his whole life with a certain version of the truth in his mind. So sometimes it takes all the way to the trial when they hear it for the very first time. The best thing you can do is just be patient.
Yes. There's just lots of moments in my life where I needed a mom and didn't have her. So that piece has always been missing. I feel bad for Ryan because he didn't have a mom either. And, you know, this is his dad. And so this is something that he's going to have to deal with. and it can't be easy. So I know there's like a lot of celebration and a lot of, you know, happiness for us, but I can't imagine what he's going to have to go through.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It is really nice to be able to tell them good news that 32-year patience has finally paid off.
After all this time, huh?
Yes. That's a great day. Prosecuting attorney Joe Burkhardt convened a special grand jury in the case of Steve Nossinger.
Go. Leave the door open. Let him go in the house.
The grand jury in Paulding County, Ohio, indicted Steve for the capital murder of Al.
Xem linh cái đội 2 tập kia không có làm thôi. Người ta yêu cầu thì phải làm theo yêu cầu vậy đấy. Bốn 5 giờ sáng xem có cạn gì. Bố đang ngủ. Nhiều nhưng mà nhiều thằng khổ ấy không bao giờ nhắn tin giấy luôn, không biết ở Việt Nam ấy. Mấy thằng mà hay mua chứ kéo rồi nhắn luôn. Nhắn dài, nó nhắn dài cái đồ này. Nó chỉ nghĩ là nó thức còn người khác kệ mà. Cái là cái thằng mà đông của ok mua kênh đấy rồi, mình chỉ ok mua kênh đấy thôi ấy. Mà nó cứ ra lai lẳng cho nó nhắn cho cả chiến. Đấy chặt mẹ. Phớt là không làm được rồi. Hay mấy nguồn nó còn tí cơ thì giờ làm sao được. Nói một keo không đập, chưa đập thôi. Nói rồi. Nói thế này thì nó múc đấy, để cái đấy múc keo.